Is your brand killing people? That might sound like a dramatic question, but actually we're fully aware of the connection between clickbait, fake news, and the negative impact that's having on the world we live in, on the environment and on our health. And this is actually generated through advertising revenue, and it's poisoning the digital ecosystem and the very world that we live in.
Last year, the industry was in shock when the IAB study came out showing that only half of the advertising spend in programmatic actually reaches publishers. And even more concerning, that the advertisers that were part of the study appeared on over 40,000 websites. The lack of transparency on sites' lists puts professional journalism on the same level as user-generated content, clickbait, and fake news.
Intrusive advertising is actually what's driving the success of these environments because it's giving advertisers a false reading of effectiveness when it comes to their advertising, stealing budget from professionally created journalism. The recent Edelman Trust Barometer actually gave us an example of this impact, showed us that there was a direct link between poor information hygiene and vaccination hesitancy. We've seen tech giants taking back control of their data, and we've even seen advertiser boycotts. But yet the vast majority of advertisers continue to buy click without context, scale for the sake of scale at the cheapest rate possible. This was one of the reasons that the Telegraph devolved to a subscription strategy, to refocus our engagement on quality and value, because we could see that readers were getting increasingly frustrated with clickbait methods of driving engagement.
We had to rethink everything. We had to rethink the layout of the pages, the reader experience, and really put quality journalism at the heart of everything. At the end, we are a reader-first environment, so ads should complement the experience, not interfere. We also created high-impact formats such as the skylight and full-width banner to allow advertisers to showcase their brand using the latest rich media offering, such as adaptive streaming and shoppable format.
But it soon became clear to us that the industry standards for measuring success completely ignored quality attention and actually actively encouraged bad practice. So we launched Metrics That Matter to change the conversation. We introduced attention metrics to prove that there was a direct connection between positive engagement with content and ads that shared that space responsibly. And we introduced brand metrics tracking to give our advertisers tangible proof that their ads were working that didn't rely on click. This helped us do a number of other things. It actually helped us prove that subscribers love advertising. They're more likely to engage, recall, and trust brands. This doesn't only dispel myths that advertising doesn't have a place in a subscriber environment, but it actually shows in a subscriber environment that is actively advocated, it works much harder. It also gave us proof that rich media works. On a recent study of Telegraph campaigns that included an element of rich media or high-impact formats, we were able to demonstrate that actually the brand lift seen against preference and action intent was double. Finally, Metrics That Matter has helped us prove the importance of quality first-party data. So Ford recently utilized Unity, which is our data matching capability, and they wanted to target confirmed Ford owners with their Ford servicing products. And we were able to show that for this audience, awareness and action intent was actually double benchmarks. Overall, Metrics That Matter has helped us prove the importance of our quality environment and strengthen our philosophy that reader first is actually advertiser first.
We also launched Texture, which uses machine learning to analyze the content of the page and categorize based on the sentiment of the article. These Nike articles are a good example to show how the same subject running on the same section can be looked at on completely different ways. One is more inspiring and categorized as curiosity, and the other one is more negative and categorized as fear. But we didn't want to use texture only as another targeting option. We wanted to use it as an insight tool. So we created tone scoring. Tone scoring combines texture and the Metrics That Matter initiative. And the results that were coming from it was showing that different industry verticals performs completely different across the sentiments. One example is the technology vertical that surprisingly doesn't do well on trust, and finance that has really high engagement on curiosity, fear, and dislike. And we understand a lot of advertisers would rather not have their campaigns running on sentiments such as fear, dislike, anger, and other sentiments that are considered negative because they think those are all hard news, hard tones, and non-brand safe. However, a Newsworks research showed that actually running on hard news can actually benefit your brand, because the user brain is more engaged and tends to absorb more the advertising message. Our subscription product is a good example to how we can use tone scoring to get insights that will drive performance way beyond clicks. We use tone scoring to analyze two campaigns, one running during the first lockdown and the other one during summer, two very different moments of the pandemic. And what tone scoring was telling us was that negative sentiments had really high score for engagement. So instead of blocking negative sentiments like a lot of brands would do, we decided to use those insights to plan our second wave campaign. The results were great. Not only hard tones drove 97% of subscriptions, but it also had one of the lowest drop-off rates at the checkout and drove 6% brand uplift. All the initiatives that we mentioned today were created thinking about how we can benefit both readers and advertisers. And if we look back at the beginning of the pandemic, we had to disregard a lot of behavior and interest data because that didn't apply to the moment we were living anymore. Specialists were looking at recession data. Other specialists were saying that we should stop advertising spend. However, instead of following speculation, we turned to our readers panel to know what they wanted. The data that was coming out of that was telling us that they wanted to hear more about gardening brands, indulgent food shopping, and interestingly, even though we couldn't travel, they were actively researching and planning their next holiday. So looking at data from that perspective, stop advertising spend wasn't really the right thing to do.
We also asked our contributors panel how their perception of brands changed based on the platform that they were seeing that brand. The results showed us that actually in a quality news environment, trust for those brands was particularly high. But actually, it's not just advertisers that can benefit from well-placed advertising in quality news journalism. It's actually a two-way street. A recent study from Digiday and GeoEdge, The True Cost of Deceptive Advertising, shows that actually if an ad is in some way deceitful or low quality, it actually has a negative impact on the perception of the publisher brand. And this is one of the reasons why the Telegraph is focused on building strong relationships with brands that we think are aligned to the Telegraph, aligned to our editorial agenda and aligned to our readers' passions. And we do this through our editorial integrated partnerships. When we asked the contributors panel about the brands that they thought were aligned to the Telegraph, it was no surprise to us that these are brands that have always done particularly well on our platform. But now we know that these brands are actually additive to the perception of the Telegraph itself.
We want to invite advertisers to think where they are spending their budget, what type of content they are funding or should be funding instead, and what impact funding clickbait and fake news has not only to their brand, but to the entire world. And we want to challenge the industry to rethink the reliance on automation, use it responsibly, and not think only on cost and scale, but about professional experience, value, and quality. That's the only way we can rebuild trust and support quality, trusted online content.